Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of my water. My radio voice on, and let's talk about this. I don't like discussing political issues. I don't like discussing anything related to ideology. But in this case, people need to understand why you're seeing people in the comments arguing about soy. And what people need to understand is, again, because I have known many people in these circles, I've had discussions with many of these people, I am actually aware of all the conspiracy theories around soy. I am familiar with the soy boy memes and everything else. All the conspiracy theories involved with depopulation agendas. It's actually stuff I know quite a bit about. I just don't believe in it. So that being said, when it comes to this stuff, I do understand what these people are saying. They think that someone like me who is saying, look, soy is healthy, that we don't know what they're talking about. But I'm intimately familiar with what they're saying, and here's the problem with it. And what all of you need to understand when you start reading anti-soy stuff, it almost exclusively comes from the alt-right, okay, number one. It comes from white nationalist and neo-Nazi movements, or it comes from conspiracy theorists. And your conspiracy theories around it with usually the alt-right is depopulation agendas, okay? The conspiracy theory side is the global elite want to depopulate 90% of the planet, and soy is one of the mechanisms by which they'll do it. That's also where the soy boy meme comes from. It's always about soy, soy, soy. The alt-right associates soy with being on the far left, being a communist, having low testosterone, because of, again, some minor preliminary stuff on estrogen that hasn't panned out in the research. And the research has been very, very well done. And then, of course, you have the racist element that believe that a specific group of people, who I will not name and create controversy, want to depopulate people of European ancestry and want them extinct, and so therefore they will do anything to lower their testosterone levels. All right, so essentially this is where all the anti-soy stuff is coming from these days. It's not coming from the medical community. So be aware when you hear this rhetoric, you are almost exclusively dealing with these circles. And here's what these circles don't seem to understand. If you really objectively looked at the science, because we know that soy doesn't do this. In fact, let's come over and look at, again, another political group, China. China has done extensive studies on this. Why? Because tofu was invented in China. Tofu is a major staple in Chinese diet and culture for quite a long time. They've actually had a population explosion during it. They care about this stuff because China, again, I hate to discuss politics, has made it very clear, they're openly admitted that they want to be the global superpower. Okay? There's all sorts of stuff that you can find, but they're very open about it. They admit it. Okay, that's what they want to do. So they do care about nutrition of their population. They do care about building a stronger country and a stronger population. So they have actually conducted a lot of research on this, and they have concluded that soy is extremely good for their population, based upon the research. That's what they have, and that is what their universities and their government has determined. So then you come over with us, and we have found the same thing. All right, so what people are not understanding when they talk about what would, this will actually make the conspiracy theorists look right and look stupid at the same time. If you looked at all the available literature on lowering testosterone, and then you look at the root causes of obesity and diabetes, because what's going to lower testosterone? What is responsible, according to science, mainstream research, medical doctors, what is causing the decline in testosterone in Western males? Obesity. That is the number one driving factor. Number one. That is the primary cause. It is well understood. Other stuff is of secondary importance. Now, alcohol is a big one. So, alcohol, big one. All right, so if you wanted to lower testosterone and fertility in a population, what foods are going to drive that? Refined fructose, saturated fat. There's your big two. What would you want to give people in large amounts behind that? Alcohol. So if I wanted to lower testosterone in the population, I'd want to make them as insulin resistant as possible and get them as fat as possible. You notice that it's not tofu doing this. It's a bunch of Coca-Cola, hot dogs, bacon and buttered red meat, burgers and hot dogs and sugar. America. And chase it down with a bunch of beer. There's your culprit for lowering testosterone. That is what people are eating who are suffering from these problems. That is what is causing the decline. If I were to try to culturally enforce something and I wanted to depopulate a country, that is what I would feed them. That is what I would convince them to eat. Because that will do it. It will lower their testosterone. And diabetes affects fertility rates. Pre-diabetes affects fertility rates too. Hit that saturated fat and that table sugar. Actually, any form of refined fructose, any of it. That's what will do it. And make sure they drink a lot. We see in a pattern here. Maybe people who are worried about these things need to be looking at this stuff. What the actual medical literature shows is the problem. That also goes in for all the people who do conspiracy theories. Half of y'all, this is how y'all eat. I know because I know plenty of these people. In person. This is how they eat. Right? Everyone I know who is really far right and even believes any of this, they say stuff like, people blaming steak for what sugar did, and then they eat hot dogs and steak all the time. But then they still eat the sugar. Then they say stuff like, I don't like aspartame. I eat real sugar. They like beer. Okay. Might I suggest, rather than worry about soy, maybe people who cared about these things should look at this stuff, but they won't. They won't. And because I'm here saying this is a fitness person, I'm then going to be labeled a bad guy who is trying to feed people soy. And I'm really standing here going, look, guys, if we want to look at men's health, look at the data around the world, look at the population data, look at the research. And then realize when I had a bunch of people bring up, what about biased research? Look at who fund. It's like, yeah, there are definitely institutions that have a bias against soy, and they want data against it. Top of the list, dairy. And I'm not anti-dairy, by the way, for moral reasons. I've always said dairy is a superfood for building muscle. Just because I'm not drinking it for certain health things doesn't mean I'm against dairy by any means. Dairy is awesome for athletes. But, I mean, there you go. There's an enormous multi-billion-dollar industry that has fought back against soy because they don't want soy milk replacing their milk. Now, soy as a crop is kind of important to beef growing and all that. It's actually kind of important. It's part of what they, bulk them up on. Okay, but there's an industry that absolutely will fund research to the opposite. It's helped fund a campaign against it. Okay, there is absolutely financial bias out there. But when you step back and look at the meta-analysis and you look at the stuff without the bias, it is always positive. It is always positive for soy, right? So, again, if you are not part of any of that and you're understanding why there's an argument, it's not an argument in science. It is an argument of specific conspiracy circles that have conspiracy theories around soy, and then you have certain food industries that see it as a competition and obviously push agendas against it. And it really is that simple. The reality is the data shows us soy is overall good for our health. It is. And all this stuff about testosterone and estrogen has turned out to be nonsense when it's looked at in the lab. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.